Go ahead.
Oh my God, I'm so excited.
What's up?
Hi.
Hello.
It's my first office hours since I have been at magick.me.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. I have been for a few months, but I think you only made one office hour since other than this one since I
It's been a little
been.
crazy.
Yeah. By the way, my name is Honey. It's not Rain. I'm from
Honey.
Brazil. Yeah.
Okay. Hi.
It's like
Thank you for letting me
Portuguese.
know.
Yeah. I
What's
do live
going
in
What's going on in
US
Brazil
though.
right now? What's it like there?
Like I said, I live in the US, but in
Okay.
Brazil,
Okay.
much like here, I was supposed to go there now just before everything went until lockdown and I canceled my trip and the whole thing.
Oh man.
But yeah, everybody there is in quarantine. The city I live now in a small town, so I think it's not as bad as being in a big city. Like the city I come from there, it's big, like 3 million people, and it's tough. In Brazil, you have way more people who are like poor, more social disability and inequality, like you say here, and everything.
Yeah.
So basically, everybody is locked down at home and being shamed if you go out, even though you have to sometimes, so you can eat.
Oh my
You know,
God. I
yeah.
can only imagine Rio, like what Rio must be like.
Exactly. They were like interviewing people on TV because in Brazil it's very common you have like people selling stuff in the streets and they interview like, "What are you doing here?" And the guy's like, "Well, I catch coronavirus or I die of hunger. So what can I do?"
Jesus. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's a different reality there.
By the way, I did come up with the solution, at least for the U.S. Yesterday, which is that we should invade Canada. Right? Canada
Well,
just.
I'm actually living in the border with Canada. So actually some people think North Dakota is Canada.
Oh, you're in North Dakota. Okay.
So
So,
I'm close enough.
how do you feel about Canadians? Are there any Canadians
Um,
on the call?
I
Probably should
went
have
to
said.
Canada before I moved here. I think they're fine people.
Somebody's from Montreal. Yeah, I love Canadians. I'm just saying it's like a Canadian. Okay, I'm just saying Canada just did like they just universally disarmed and decided to take everyone's rifles away. So I'm like, shit, perfect timing. Let's just invade Canada. They got tar sands. I'm joking, obviously.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So yeah, I raised my hand. So I'm like super excited. Like I said, I have been on magick.me for a few months now. I got interest because I have been into it since before I moved here. And I just want to say, like, your course on chaos magic, even though I didn't start there because I was interested in chaos magic, I was interested more in the Buddhism and Raja Yoga courses. Um, it blew my mind. Like it was different from anything I ever read on it because I have been reading on the materials we have in Brazil. Like I go to a lot of Brazilian sources and stuff. And actually in Brazil right now, there's like a huge chaos magic community and
Mm.
they handle things so much different and are so focused into like creating, servidors and stuff
Oh
like that.
yeah.
And I thought the material you had there was just like mind blowing. It gave me a new perspective into chaos magic, and I even feel like trying it out now. So I
Right.
just want to say thank you for all the
Oh, you're
material you put
welcome.
out there.
Well, that's the real chaos. I mean, it's like that. The stuff in that course is like I literally went and met everybody in the chaos magic. I was part of those groups for like a decade and was doing it constantly. So that's the real stuff. It's not secondhand from books. It's from the original people who created it and then refined. And I spent a lot of time refining that stuff. So and there's a ton of the servitors thing. By the way, I don't teach because I think people get themselves into trouble with it. But the because you basically
I
cut
agree
off
with
part of your
you.
own consciousness and then you lose control of it. It's like the fuck.
And I think
So
people want to create servitors for most of the time for the wrong reasons.
yeah,
But yeah, and I do have a question that has to do with our current like you wanted to talk about self-defense. So I'm a healthcare worker, and you know, all those healthcare workers like cops or first responders and everything, you know, about all this lashing out and anger you have been talking about. And that's funny because I feel like this is something we are subjected like daily.
how do you mean?
The lashing out
People lash out
anger
at
part.
healthcare workers?
Oh my god, you have no idea.
I don't. I don't. Tell me.
Oh yeah, or like even like I said, cops and first responders and stuff. And I mean, of course, you have the train that you know to not take personally and everything. And you know, in theory, it's
I
everything
try.
like, yeah, you try, it's everything beautiful. But um, I think especially when you like, it's kind of a empath and stuff. It's hard to do when you have to go to work every day in a setting that is already has some sort of like a heavy energy, especially
Yeah.
now in times of like coronavirus and stuff, and especially when sometimes that energy is directed at you. So my question is like, what would you be your tips or techniques you have to share to people who work on those settings to be more centered and not let that energy like suck
Yeah.
out of you? Because sometimes you're not even tired physically, but you get home, you're tired mentally.
Yeah. It's yeah. Um, so this is kind of people like just kind of directing, like just kind of yelling, or just generally directing negativity at you, or is it like physical safety?
Yeah. Like I said, sometimes both. I sometimes have to work in a memory care unit. So I mean, but I don't work in a hospital. But yes, even in a hospital, like, you know, one thing people don't think also, when people are in pain, they don't think about anything, right? They just want to get out of that pain state. So what do? They lash out. Or people with dementia, like I said, you know,
Mm,
it's not, they don't do why, they don't know what they're doing, but when they're doing, they mean it. Um, so I feel like sometimes you still have, you know, especially, I'm not necessarily like you get that thrown at you, but sometimes it is at you, especially like if they want you, um, you know, want a medication, or you're trying to care for them and they don't understand what you're trying to do with them. And like I said, I'm pretty sure like first responders go through that same problem when they go to a place and because they have a call, whatever, they have to deal with people who are sick or have mental issues, or even cops. I'm pretty sure they deal with that lash out of
yeah.
people all the time. So yeah, so that's and that's what I feel I have a difficulty even to I try to center myself. I tried work on my aura, um, and everything. Sometimes it's just hard when you get home and you were yelled all day long.
Yeah, no kidding. I can't. Yeah, it's hard. The yeah, it's very destabilizing. I mean, I think that like in general, lesser banishing ritual of pentagram, right?
Yeah,
And
I have been doing that every day.
does it help?
Um, Honestly, I do, for to the point that I feel more, like I say, more centered on everything, and I'm able to control my emotions and um, con- control how do I react to my surroundings. So I like to do the ritual and then do a meditation right afterwards, and usually I
Okay,
do that at night because it's when I have more time to do it.
great. Which is okay, and then you've come home. You can do it in the morning proactively as well too, morning and night, and maybe during the lunch break 3 times a day. In your situation, 3 times a day, yeah. Crowley describes your aura should be like a bubble with like a razor steel bubble. Can I show you a trick otherwise though?
Sure.
Okay, so can you can you think of maybe not one too extreme, but one that think of an incident? Maybe let's pick a specific incident where somebody was directing some negativity towards you that you're comfortable talking about on
Oh,
call.
sure. It happened yesterday. I was trying to give medication to this one lady, and she was eating a piece of cake, and she threw her cake at me and tried to stab me with her
Holy
plastic fork.
This is dementia?
And, yes, and that's a daily thing. And like I said, I know it's the illness and they know, but like I said, when they are directing that energy towards you, they mean it, because for them, you are a threatening.
So how did you feel when this happened?
Usually, I feel kind of sad, because that's not a reaction you were, in my head, there's not a reaction I would expect to deal with.
So energetically speaking, did you feel an energy in your body when this happened?
Oh yeah, for sure. Like a lot of the times when I get those bursts, I do feel like my body warm, and kind of try to control your shakiness, and you like take some deep breaths.
Yeah. So that warm feeling, is it your whole body or just specific parts or a specific part?
Usually I feel like coming from up my head down.
And how far down? And does it spread out?
I would say more like down to my waist.
Okay, so from your head down to your waist. And is it like, how wide is it? Is it like?
I feel it's as wide as would be my body.
Okay, so it's like. Mm-hmm. And how fast is it? It moves down?
Yeah, but like I said, not out of the way. And I just have that like vibrational shakiness feeling, but especially like the vibrational feeling.
So the energy feels vibrational, or your body shakes in response to it?
Yeah.
Both?
Yeah.
Okay. And would you associate a color with it?
Honestly, I never thought about it, but now if I think about it, I would say like yellow.
Okay.
Not red. First thing you would think it would be red, but no, actually, if I think about it, it would be something like a yellowy red.
Which is interesting, because that's how I was seeing it. That's how I was representing it to myself as well. I was seeing it as yellow. Mm-hmm. Interestingly enough. Coincidence? I don't know. And so warm, yellow, vibrating, and moving downwards from head to here.
Yeah.
Does it make a sound?
No, not that I can think of.
Okay, so want to see a magic trick?
I'm here for that.
All right. So take the energy and move it. Now just reverse the current so that it's moving back up.
Okay.
And slow down the vibration rate as it's moving up.
All right, I see what you mean.
And now change the temperature from warm to cold.
Oh, wow.
And now make it black and white instead of yellow.
Oh.
And then potentially move it all the way back out, and all the way back out and up and out.
Oh, wow. I see what you mean. I can see like on the, heat of the moment. Now I understand what they call heat of the moment.
Yeah, right.
That being,
but now
like,
now it's gone cold. It's all gone cold now.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I can totally see it. And even like when I was talking about it, I could feel the sensation as I was in that situation again. Yeah. Right. I would say, so that would be a technique of some of those techniques of transmutation of energy.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you can see that. And here's a crazy secret too, which is that this is one of the things about when people hold on to memories, and we have this idea that people are traumatized forever. They're not traumatized forever. It's just that people keep thinking about the event and representing it to themselves, or they're feeling the same feeling. Right. But you can change, Photoshop, edit any feeling. I mean, it's like you can go back and you change the memory, and then the energy is released. And so And it's also true for creative magic in the sense that when you're representing something to yourself internally, like in a ritual, like Archangel or something like that, your brain and your body and your energy are responding to it as if it's real. So, and you can change it. So the first go-to step, because but we're talking about is changing submodalities, right? So when you feel an energy, you check in and you see how you're representing it to yourself, and you can go through. You just checklist off through the 5 senses. Okay, well, if it's a certain bright color, make it black and white. If you're representing something to yourself as being near to you, like you're seeing a bad event happening to you, make it far away. If you can slow down the vibration, you can change. And all of these things are, it's literally like just change how you're representing it to, and you can be very creative with it. In the heat of the moment, it's really hard to remember to do all those things. In the heat of the moment, right? Or if you're on the spot, and usually if you have some adrenaline going, you're not going to like stop and go through like a mental ritual checklist. So the immediate self-defense go-to that you will always remember is simply to reverse the directionality of the energy, right? So for instance, if you people feel I feel like I got hit in my stomach, like I feel like lead in the pit of my stomach, right? Or I feel like I got hit in my stomach, right, by an event. So maybe if somebody is feeling like a force going inward into their stomach, that's okay. We'll just change the direction and make it go outward, and just start with that. You can change the other ones afterwards, but if you just change the directionality of the energy, that's the immediate go-to. That's the immediate go-to. I mean, and it is that simple, right? So if you feel an energy going this way that is uncomfortable, make it go that way, right? Or if it's going in, make it go out, and just change the direction of it. And that'll do 80% of the work of mopping up the and that in itself is actually you can later do a broad sweep with an LBRP or something, but that in itself is much more immediately effective than like people like, oh, I need to go meditate for half an hour to get hold of myself. It's like, well, you could, but you might also spend that half hour going over the same memory over and over again and just getting yourself more upset, right? And then feeling guilty that you can't meditate past it. That's very common, right? So just go straight to that. Just reverse the directionality of the energy.
Yeah, like I said, that's why in healthcare there's a joke. There's the crying room.
Okay.
Yeah,
I should cover the crying game song and make it about the crying room. Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that. But yeah, I have thought about some Buddhist techniques about using the loving cat kindness and everything. The
lolling cat?
Loving kindness.
That's my go-to. I look at cat memes. Loving kindness, yeah.
Yeah. But like I said, sometimes even
which I want to point out is basically just being like, I'm better than you. it's like taking the moral high ground.
That's exactly how I feel when I do it. It doesn't make me feel any better. Like when I get home and I still feel drained, and that's why I even thought like this stuff doesn't work. It works when you're in a cave meditating, like those bullets, but it doesn't work when you're in an actual society being hit from everywhere or just
particularly if you're working in a profession like you work in, right? And it's kind of like, like I pretty much like I'm a writer and a magic teacher, so I I'm not in constant contact with people as I have been in other parts of my life. It's like constant energetic push and pull, right? Particularly in a life and death situation like that, I can't imagine. So yeah, it's like so many of these spiritual. It's interesting. It's like every call, like all the questions end up lining up together. So it's like in the last call we were talking about anger and dealing with anger and being and we were talking about spiritual bypassing and about how many spiritual techniques are either for kind of it's like there's so many spiritual techniques are just basically for pretending something's not happening. And
I know, and I hate that. I hate that because it
just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. It's like you want something that works, and that for me at least, like that works. It's just like you need to. It's if you can't. And I saw there was a text. Somebody said that it's hard to pinpoint the directionality. It doesn't need to be the directionality. The basic principle here is you need to. First of all, you have to understand that we don't respond to the world as it is, as Anaïsnen put it. We respond to our internal representations of events, right? It's really true. We're not actually capable of perceiving things directly. We can only make representations of our experience and then react to them. So the beauty of that is that since it's your mind, you have total control over the representation. So you just treat it like it's like Photoshop again, you know, like, or Adobe Premiere or whatever. Pick your metaphor, right? iMovie. You figure out how you're representing something to yourself, and everyone's different, right? Some people, obviously, visual, audio, kinesthetic, all this. Some people will represent things to themselves visually. Some people will be telling themselves a story over and over again. So, for instance, if you're one of these people that constantly says, like, beats themselves up with stories like, you never get it right. You never fucking get it right. It's like, okay, well, you don't have to change that if that's your thing, but why not try making it, turning the volume down, right? Or making it in Steve Carell's voice, right?
I'm sorry, I don't
like,
know who Steve Carell is.
Or
I'm from
okay,
Brazil,
or,
man.
okay,
You gotta use
or
the poppest of the poppest icon.
make it in Donald Duck's voice, right? Make it in Donald Duck's
There
voice.
you go.
Right? You never get it right. Pretty hard to fucking be. I mean, you can keep beating yourself up, but it just, you know, it just changes a little if it's in Donald Duck's voice, right? So everyone represents things, and the reason why I went to straight to the directionality with you is because if you're an empathic person, so you're very visually oriented. So use metaphors like I see what you're saying, for instance. But
yeah, I am, or I think I'm more audio oriented than visually.
More audio.
Honestly.
Well, everyone's everything, right? But since you mentioned, I went to vibration with you also because you mentioned being empathic, right? And empathic is body sensation, right? You're immediately talking about like you're feeling an energy and all this. So, in which case that is, you know, if you immediately, like, if you're somebody like me where you have a sense of energy very easily, you just change, you reverse the direction of the energy. But not everyone is like that. A lot of people are purely mental dialogue or visualization. Well, then you just work on those sense patterns, right? So you change the volume. Like, you can still beat yourself up, just turn the volume down and make it in Donald Duck's voice. You can still see an image of the terrible thing that happened to you when you were 7, but just make it like way far away and make it in black and white, right? And yeah, so that I found is just a really effective, immediate kind of judo move, as it were.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I think it was a very cool trick. I haven't heard of it before. I tried some different things that I have read, like about Buddhism and the whole loving kindness thing, and you know, like, I'm better than you because I don't have dementia, or I'm better than you because I don't need this medicine.
Right. Yeah.
But that doesn't make you feel better in the end. I don't think so. And thank you for everything. Another thing I would like to ask, what are your plans for the magick.me and YouTube and everything? Are you planning to do any more lives on YouTube or any more hours here?
Yeah, so basically what happened is, like I said, I moved twice in the last month, and I ended up, the first place I was in had terrible internet, and then I got snowed in for a week, and there was no internet, and so I've had to relocate again. And so just like everybody, I literally have no idea what's going on, but my goal is to get as much content out as possible very quickly. And that will hopefully, now I don't want to overpromise because this is a problem that I have, but my goal is we're going to, as quickly as possible. So, well, and this is a good place to end on. Okay, so right now where we're at is Midnight Gospel just came out. There's a ton of material on the site. Adept Initiative, by the way, has been completely re-edited because I now have an AV editor, finally, thankfully. Adept Initiative has been, it's like the ideal director's cut version, basically. And so Adept Initiative and Fortuna Working are now fully available. And it's like a lot of people on this call were in that class. And you've said, like Drew was saying, like he's still working on that material. Like you can literally take the material on Adept Initiative as well as Fortuna Working. And that's enough for the rest of your life, probably. Just if you keep working those techniques. But in addition to that, there is another live mega course coming that is the part 2. It's not a repeat of the Out of Initiative. It's the second part of it. And it's largely going to focus more on astral, right? And more on ritual magic. So, and we're just going to continue forward with the set curriculum of the capital G, capital W, great work, right? There are also going to be other classes coming that are specifically about the current time period that we're in. And so I don't want to say too much and I don't want to overpromise, but as you can see, I have like a cool backdrop. I have high-speed internet now, and I'm not leaving the house. So there's a lot of content coming, and there will be more stuff on YouTube as well. And a new podcast is going out, I believe, Monday, and that is a remaster of the classic discussion on black magic versus white magic, which is a much improved version of it. And then that will be followed by a video podcast with Johnny Pemberton, the comic who many of you know. And then there will be lots more to come. So I'm also thankfully finally hiring, this is actually turning into a real company. So there's a lot more to come. But I have been counseled by by the people that I've been counseled by the other team members at magick.me to quit saying I will promise the heavens by next Tuesday, because things inevitably take longer than you think they do. So, but lots to come. And like I said, we're going to be back on weekly schedule for office hours. And there will be lots of podcasts, YouTube, and new courses very shortly. So I will say particularly, here's my recommendation. Everyone on this call is a magick.me subscriber. If you haven't done the Adept Initiative, now is definitely the time to do it, because it's fully, as of this weekend, it's fully director's cutized. You can go through, now that everything is there, you can binge do the content like Netflix. And if you just take Adept Initiative and do it over the next month or the next 6 weeks, you will be well set up for the next. This is the time to start now if you want to be in the flow for part 2. So and then part 2 will follow on directly, and part 2 will have part 1 as a prerequisite. So if people are joining part 2 without joining Adept Initiative, I'll say please go back and do Adept Initiative instead. But that said, I think you should be able to fully complete that before part 2 starts if you start now. For those who have already done Adept Initiative, my recommendation is to continue with the practices. And so, for instance, G. Gordon, the always hilariously named G. Gordon Liddy, or was it G. Gordon Libby? I can't remember. Or G. Gordon Disney, excuse me, it was very funny. Was saying that like he fell off for 6 weeks, which I told people was going to happen. They were going to need to cool down their nervous system. So he's not out of the flow. That's part of the flow. So he was saying that like he'd gotten out of the loop. So for those who have already done Adept 1, I highly recommend, this is a good time to restart. And it sounded like something like Drew, for instance, sounded like he was still going ahead with the practices. But it's a good time to dial that in. Chet as well, and everyone else who's on here who was in part of that. It's a good time to like just get, really lock in the practices again and start building some momentum for when part 2 comes out. And a big part of that, I highly, whether you're in, no matter what camp you're in, meaning if you're a magick.me subscriber, if you have not yet done Adept, if you've already done Adept, I highly recommend that everyone do Fortuna working. And you don't need any prerequisite on that. A lot of you already have access to it. Even if you've already done it, I highly recommend you do that, because obviously we're headed into an economic ice age. And that should probably be top priority is money manifestation magic. So Fortuna working, you can see on the site, is fully available now. And that's the massive magic working just for manifesting wealth, right? And some of the people on this call were saying, they've already been getting tremendous results from it. And a lot of people have written in and have said tremendous things. So regardless of where you're at in the mega course flow, I highly recommend that everyone do that, just for obvious practical reasons. And I should too. So that's where we're at. And I'm not going to put dates on it. But the answer is as quickly as we can, because I'm also very aware that people are at home and have free time right now, and so I want to jump on as quickly as possible, providing more content. But things being where they are, it's obviously coronavirus disrupts things, but thankfully not too much for Magick.me. I expect Magick.me to be in much higher swing and moving, putting out a lot more than it did prior. So that's the news from me, everyone. Okay, so I think that's probably it for today. So yeah, we had an almost 2.5-hour session. It's time for me to wrap up, and we will be back on. For those who did not get your questions answered, I'm sorry I couldn't get to everyone, but we will pick up again next Sunday. And perhaps the universe will manifest the answer to you anyways in the meantime. All right. Hang in there, everyone. Things are crazy right now. Hang in there. But I will be here. I will see you next Sunday or sooner.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.